Okay, let's dive into this. Picture it. You're in a high-stakes technical interview. Could be for your absolute dream job. You're feeling good, the conversation's flowing, and then it happens.
The interviewer lobs a question at you, and your mind just goes completely blank. You know that cold, stomach-dropping feeling? The one where panic starts to creep in? Yeah, that one. The question is just hanging there, and all you can hear is the thumping of your own heart.
And your first thought is probably something like, well, that's it. I've completely blown it. It feels like game over, right? A big red X next to your name, the end of the road for this opportunity.
But, and this is a huge but, what if I told you that this exact moment, the one every single candidate dreads, is actually your single biggest opportunity to impress? Because if you handle this right, you can turn a moment of weakness into a massive strength. Now, before we get to the solution, we have to understand the traps. Because most people react instinctively in these high-pressure moments. And honestly, those instincts almost always lead you down the wrong path. Let's look at the classic downward spiral.
These three are the absolute worst things you can do. First, you freeze up. The classic deer in the headlights, total silence. Then, maybe you overcompensate and just start rambling, throwing out keywords and hoping anything sticks. And the third, which is often the most damaging, is you bluff. You just confidently state something that's totally wrong. From an interviewer's perspective, all three of these are major red flags.
And this gets to the absolute core of why so many people get this moment wrong. A technical interview isn't a closed-book exam. It's not about memorizing facts. It's really a simulation. They want to see how you perform when you don't have all the answers. Because guess what? That's what the real job is like every single day. They are testing your process, not just your knowledge.
So, how do you make that critical pivot from panic to a powerful performance? Well, here is a simple, totally actionable 4-step framework that turns this problem into a massive opportunity to show off senior-level thinking.
Okay, let's walk through the game plan. It's 4 simple steps. First, you're going to acknowledge you don't know the specific answer, but you'll do it calmly. Second, you're going to anchor the whole conversation back to fundamental principles. Third, you'll propose a potential direction, not a perfect final solution. And finally, you're going to invite the interviewer to collaborate with you.
This phrase right here, this is your magic key. This is step 1. Saying this does 2 incredible things at once. First, it shows you're honest. You're not trying to bluff your way through it. And second, it projects immense confidence. You aren't saying, I give up. You're saying, all right, let's solve this thing together. This is what senior engineers actually do.
Now for step 2, you anchor the conversation to first principles. So you might not know the specific algorithm they mentioned, but you do know the basics of system design. You start asking the big picture questions. What problem are we really trying to solve here? Are we optimizing for scale, for consistency, for cost? This immediately shifts the interview from a trivia contest to a high-level architectural discussion, and that is exactly where you want to be.
Now for the third, crucial step. You don't need a perfect answer. You just need to show that you can think about a reasonable approach. Using phrases like, one approach could be, or a potential risk with that is, signals something so important to the interviewer. It shows you have structured thinking, you're aware of uncertainty, and you're adaptable. These are all hallmarks of a senior engineer.
And finally, step 4. This is a subtle but incredibly powerful move. By asking clarifying questions, you completely change the dynamic of the room. It's no longer an interrogation with you in the hot seat. It becomes a collaborative problem-solving session. You're now working with your interviewer. And trust me, that is something they will remember.
Okay, so that's the theory. But theory is one thing. Let's make this really concrete. We're going to look at a real-world example and compare a pretty weak response to a really strong one for the exact same question. So here's our question. It's a classic, tricky system design problem. How would you handle cross-region writes here? This is a complex topic, and there are a ton of ways you could approach it.
So let's compare these two, side by side. The weak response just names a tool. Use Raft. It's a shallow, keyword drop of an answer that shows no real thinking. But the strong response? It's a masterclass in our 4 steps. It acknowledges the missing info, and then immediately goes to the core trade-off, latency versus consistency. Then it proposes 2 different directions based on which goal is more critical. It shows deep, mature reasoning without ever needing to name a single specific tool.
So let's zoom out for a second and talk about the real game that's being played here. What's the true objective of a tough technical interview, especially when you're going for a senior role?
They absolutely do not expect you to be a walking encyclopedia. What they do expect is for you to demonstrate these key skills: staying calm under pressure, reasoning clearly through ambiguity, communicating complex trade-offs, and adapting when you have incomplete information.
And why do they test for these things? It's simple. This isn't just some interview trick. This is the job. This is literally what senior engineers and architects do every single day when they're faced with a new, ambiguous, and complex problem. The interview is just a simulation of the real work.
So if you take just one thing away today, please let it be this. The next time you're in an interview and your mind goes blank, don't see it as a failure. See it as an invitation to show them how you think. Because not knowing is perfectly fine. Not thinking is not.